Welcome back to the Deep Dive, our favorite learner. I am super excited to get into today's topic. So I want you to start by just imagining something with me.
Oh, I love a good thought experiment. Let's do it.
Right. Okay, so imagine you are holding a manual. And I mean, not just any manual. Picture this massive, heavy, leather-bound book.
Like something out of an old library.
Exactly. And this book, it contains the literal secrets of the universe. Like the answers to the biggest existential questions humanity has ever dared to ask.
Okay, sounds pretty incredible so far.
Yeah, but here is the massive catch. You have it right there in your hands, but the manual is written in this highly complex, completely encrypted code.
Oh, wow, so you can't even read it.
Right, it is completely locked up. And without the encryption key, I mean, all those universe-altering secrets mean absolutely nothing.
It's basically just a paperweight at that point.
Literally a paperweight. You can trace the letters, you can admire the binding, you can even memorize the encrypted symbols until you can recite them backward.
But you don't actually know what any of it says.
Exactly. And according to the incredibly dense source material we are diving into today, this is exactly what ancient sacred texts are like without true profound understanding.
That is such a powerful image.
And this is where the ancient metaphor of light and dark truly begins in this text.
Yeah, and the premise of the lecture we are unpacking today centers on, honestly, a profoundly disruptive interpretation of those ancient words.
Disruptive is definitely the right word for it.
Right, because we are looking at how biblical metaphors of light and dark function, specifically tracing how Old Testament prophecies utilize these concepts.
And it really flips things on its head.
It totally does. The source material demands we abandon our modern casual definitions. I mean, in this framework, light is not just a physical phenomena.
Like the sun rising or whatever.
Exactly. And it is certainly not, a vague, feel-good symbol of general positivity or moral goodness.
Yeah, which is how we usually use it today.
For sure. Light, in this specific theological architecture, is defined explicitly as the unsealed word of God.
Unsealed. Okay, let's unpack this, because that is the operative word, right? Unsealed.
It is the entire key to the concept.
And it fundamentally changes the relationship between a reader and a text. Like, let's really get into the mechanics of this.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Because our source argues that the physical text itself, I mean, the ink on the page, the scrolls, the bound books, that is not inherently the light.
Far from it. The foundational argument presented here is that the text only becomes light when its true essence, its deep intended meaning, is actually unlocked and explained.
So before that explanation happens...
Before that happens, the mere physical text is categorized as darkness.
Wow.
It represents a state of total ignorance. You can possess the object, but if the meaning remains sealed, you are still operating in the dark.
That makes me think of being locked in a pitch-black room. Absolutely zero visibility.
Oh, that's a great way to picture it.
Right. And right in the center of the room is this massive iron-banded treasure chest.
Okay, I see where you're going.
You can stumble around, you can run your hands over the wood, you can feel the heavy lock on the front. I mean, you know the chest is physically present.
You're touching it.
Exactly. You can even walk out of the room and tell everyone you know, hey, I have a treasure chest in there.
But you don't actually have the treasure.
Right. Until you have the key, until that lock clicks and the lid actually opens until it is unsealed, you're still sitting in a dark room.
You merely possess the awareness of a locked box.
Yes. You don't possess the treasure at all.
What's fascinating here is the psychological shift required to accept that analogy when you apply it to religion.
I mean, it's huge.
Think about the historical context of religious practice. For millennia, across countless traditions, rote memorization of sacred texts has been a cornerstone of piety.
Oh, absolutely. Memorizing chapters, whole books even.
Right. Being able to chant, recite, and copy texts was viewed as the ultimate expression of devotion. But our source material aggressively attacks that paradigm.
It really doesn't hold back.
Not at all. It argues that mindlessly chanting texts without possessing the essence of the meaning is not just unhelpful, it is a profound form of spiritual blindness.
Yeah, the source uses some incredibly harsh imagery to describe people who just repeat the words without understanding that unsealed truth.
It compares them to idols.
Right, or like statues made of stone.
Yeah, the language used in the source points to the concept of a foolish, empty image. I mean, an idol has the shape of something real, right?
Like it might be carved to look perfectly like a human being.
Exactly. It has eyes, but it cannot see. It has a mouth, but it cannot speak.
It has no breath.
No breath, no life, no internal reality whatsoever. It is just a shell.
Which is honestly a terrifying critique of religious institutionalism, if you think about it.
It's devastating.
Because if you take this argument to its logical conclusion, you could have a society filled with incredibly devout scholars, right?
People who have memorized entire libraries of ancient scripture.
Yes. People who wear the right clothes, say the right prayers at the exact right times.
And
yet, according to this text, they are essentially just a room full of stone statues bumping into each other in the dark.
because they lack the essence.
Wow.
Without the unsealed understanding of the word, the people who merely memorize the text have a form of religion, they have a shape of knowledge, but no actual life.
They're generating noise, not light.
That's a perfect way to put it. True light only sparks when the deep, intended meaning of the text is comprehended and internalized.
I want to ground this for the listener for a second because, while we are talking about ancient theology here, the human experience of this is actually really universal.
Yeah, it applies to everyday life, too.
Right. Think about a time when you had to read something just completely impenetrable. Let's say you are buying a house and you are sitting at a massive conference table staring at a 50-page legal contract.
Oh, the worst feeling.
It's awful. Or perhaps you are trying to read a highly theoretical physics paper. You are staring right at the words. You can pronounce the syllables perfectly.
You know what the individual words mean?
Yet you know the definitions. But your brain is just swimming. You are completely in the dark regarding the actual implications of the document.
You have no idea what you're actually agreeing to.
Exactly. Then, the lawyer or the physicist sits down next to you. They point to a paragraph, they translate the jargon, they connect the concepts, and they explain why it actually matters.
They unseal it for you.
They unseal it.
Yeah.
And in that singular moment, your relationship to that document fundamentally transforms.
It's like night and day.
The text itself hasn't changed at all. The ink hasn't moved a millimeter. But the light has come on.
And the source is arguing that this exact dynamic is the only way ancient scripture actually functions as a divine instrument.
The literal words are not the light.
Right. The unsealed understanding is. But, and this is crucial, understanding the text is only the catalyst.
Okay, so it doesn't stop there.
No, the source doesn't allow the reader to just sit back and enjoy their newfound comprehension. Once the text is unsealed, a massive demand is placed on the individual.
There's an action required.
Exactly. The source turns to a famous metaphor from the Gospel of Matthew regarding a lampstand to explain this.
Oh, the teaching that you don't light a lamp only to immediately hide it under a bowl?
Right. You put it on a stand so that it gives light to the entire house.
Okay, and the source material explicitly defines the act of putting the light on the stand as performing good deeds, right?
Yes, performing good deeds.
No, wait. I have to throw a massive flag on the play here.
Go for it.
I want to push back on this a little bit because the phrase good deeds carries so much cultural baggage for us today.
It really does.
When we talk about good deeds in modern society, we're usually referring to just being a decent, productive member of the community.
Right, like volunteering.
Yeah. Giving to charity, helping a neighbor fix their roof, not cheating on your taxes, holding the door open for someone at the grocery store.
The basics of being a nice person.
Wait, when we say good deeds in this context, are we just talking about being a nice person? Because if the source is just saying, hey, once you understand the text, go be a nice guy that feels a bit anticlimactic.
I totally get why you'd say that.
Is this ancient text really just advocating for basic human morality?
No, it absolutely is not. The source anticipates that exact modern assumption, and it aggressively dismantles it.
Oh, really?
Yes. It argues that worldly standards of goodness, the very things you just described, are fundamentally flawed. Flawed, and in many cases, actually a manifestation of darkness if they are disconnected from the divine word.
Wait. How can helping a neighbor or being a productive citizen be categorized as darkness? That seems crazy.
To understand this, we really have to look at the philosophical mechanisms the source employs. It actually brings in concepts from ancient Chinese philosophy here.
Oh, that's unexpected.
Yeah, specifically referencing the Tao Te Ching by Laozi to explain the inherent flaw in human morality.
Okay, lay that out for me.
The philosophical argument is that human perception operates entirely on binaries. The very moment humanity collectively recognizes beauty as a concept, they simultaneously birth the concept of ugliness.
Right. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly. So the moment we define what a good deed is based on our own social needs, we inevitably create hypocrisy and evil.
Because it's a relative standard created by flawed architects. us.
Precisely. And the source targets deeply ingrained traditional virtues to drive this point home. It challenges the bedrock of societal morality.
Like what kind of virtues?
Concepts like profound respect for elders, benevolence, righteousness, and societal propriety.
The stuff that holds society together.
Right. In many cultures, these are considered the highest achievable virtues. A person who embodies these is universally praised by everyone.
They're the pillars of the community.
But the text asserts that without the unsealed light of divine truth, these are merely human attempts at goodness, completely untethered from absolute reality.
Let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around the scale of this.
It's a big one.
It's essentially stating that what human civilization defines as the absolute peak of ethical behavior might be completely irrelevant to the light.
Irrelevant, or even actively opposed to it.
Wow.
The argument is that human-defined goodness is hopelessly entangled with ego, self-preservation, and a desire for societal approval.
Okay, I see that. Like doing things for a tax write-off or good PR.
Exactly. When a person performs a good deed by society's standards, who is actually being glorified, often it is the person themselves.
They feel righteous, they get an award, they gain a reputation.
Right. But the light, the unsealed word, is absolute and operates entirely outside of human consensus. Therefore, the text redefines good deeds entirely.
So what does a true good deed look like in this framework?
A true good deed is not just being nice. It is the active, relentless pursuit, embodiment, and spreading of the unsealed word of God.
So spreading the understanding.
Yes, that is the only way to actually put the lamp on the stand.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, that is a staggering paradigm shift for anyone listening to this.
It really forces a hard look in the mirror.
It strips away all the comfort of societal approval. It implies you could be the most universally beloved philanthropist in your city.
You could have buildings named after you.
Yeah, hospitals named after you for your charity. And yet, according to this specific framework, you could be fundamentally sitting in a pitch-black room because you haven't engaged with the unsealed truth.
Your goodness is just an illusion of light created by the blind.
Wow. An illusion of light created by the blind. That is heavy.
It demands a complete reevaluation of intent and purpose. It forces a person to ask if their morality is anchored in the absolute truth of the unsealed text, or if they are just playing a game of social appeasement.
Which naturally begs an enormous question for me.
What's that?
If this unsealed light is the ultimate absolute truth, and if human morality is just a sort of shadow play in comparison, why wouldn't every single person run toward the light the second it is revealed?
That is the logical assumption, right?
Yeah. If you are in a dark room and someone throws the curtains open, you don't fight the sun. You welcome it.
But the source material maps out a grand narrative where the exact opposite happens.
Right.
Drawing from the Gospel of John, specifically the 1st and 3rd chapters, it describes the light entering the world and the darkness actively, viciously rejecting it.
And the psychology of this rejection is just one of the most fascinating aspects of the lecture. Like, why do people hate the light?
The source offers a devastatingly simple answer. Because their deeds are evil and the light exposes them.
That makes perfect sense if we think about the mechanics of exposure. It's kind of like walking into an abandoned house at midnight.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You feel fine because you can't see anything. It's dark. It's quiet.
Ignorance is bliss.
Exactly. But the moment you flip on a high-powered flashlight, you see the rot on the walls, the structural damage, the pests scurrying away into the corners.
Oh, gross. But yeah.
The light didn't create the mess.
Right.
Right. But it made ignoring the mess impossible.
That is a perfect analogy. When the unsealed word arrives, it strips away all those comfortable illusions of human-defined goodness we just talked about.
It shows the rot.
It exposes the hypocrisy of the cultural elite. It shows that the societal bedrock everyone trusts is actually just quicksand.
But the source doesn't treat all rejection equally, does it?
No, it doesn't. It categorizes the darkness, the people operating outside the light, into two distinct groups.
And the difference between them is vital to understanding the text's moral universe. Let's dissect those two categories.
Okay, so the first category consists of those who are in a state of profound ignorance.
People who just don't know any better.
Exactly. These are individuals whose eyes simply haven't been open to the essence of the text. God has not allowed them to see, or the unsealed word has literally just never reached them.
They are reading the locked manual, completely assuming it's a paperweight.
Right. Their darkness is just a state of absence.
It's tragic, perhaps, but it's passive. You can't really blame someone for not reading a book in a room with absolutely no light.
Exactly. There's no active malice there.
But the second category, the source material shifts its tone entirely when dealing with this group.
Oh, the condemnation reserved for the second group is absolute. This category consists of people who do see the light.
I'm with you.
Yes. The text has been unsealed for them, the flashlight has been turned on, and they clearly see the reality of the room. But they make a conscious, active choice to reject it.
And the underlying mechanism for this rejection, according to the source, is cowardice.
Cowardice. Pure and simple.
Not a lack of intellectual understanding, not a lack of evidence. Cowardice.
The fear of human opinion. The fear of losing their societal standing, their wealth, or their reputation.
Because following the light is socially costly.
Highly costly. They see the absolute truth of the light. They recognize that embodying it will require them to abandon all their flawed human definitions of goodness, and they shrink back.
They run away.
They calculate the social cost of walking in the light, and they just decide it is too high.
The source material delivers an absolutely scathing critique of this specific type of fear. Like, it frames this cowardice as the ultimate form of self-condemnation.
It really does.
It points out that a coward, someone who knows the truth but hides from it just to protect their status, is fundamentally untrustworthy across the board.
Yeah, the lecture explicitly states that cowards are untrustworthy to God, they are untrustworthy to other people, and they are even untrustworthy to the devil.
That part blew my mind. The rhetorical weight of that statement is brilliant. Let's analyze the mechanics of that. Why would the devil find a coward untrustworthy?
Because a coward has no deep allegiance to any cause, good or evil.
Right.
Their only allegiance is to their own immediate comfort and self-preservation. I mean, a deeply wicked person might at least have conviction in their malice, you know?
They stand for something, even if it's bad.
Right, but a coward will abandon any position, good or evil, the very moment the social pressure becomes uncomfortable.
So, by rejecting the light after having seen it, merely to save face in front of a society that is already operating in darkness, they basically trap themselves.
They trap themselves in a much deeper, more insidious form of darkness than the person who was simply ignorant.
Because the ignorant person is just blindfolded.
Right.
The coward is someone who has the blindfold removed, sees the edge of the cliff they're walking toward, but chooses to deliberately squeeze their eyes shut just because all their friends are walking toward the cliff too.
That is exactly it. And the continuous, exhausting act of self-deception required to maintain that stance, that is what ultimately destroys them.
So we've established the parameters here. The light is the unsealed word. Rejecting it out of fear is the ultimate failure.
Right.
But if the light was largely rejected by the cultural and religious elite, who actually received it? And, when did it arrive?
These are the exact questions the source tackles next.
Yeah, the source material transitions to map out the geography and timing of the Old Testament prophecies, specifically zeroing in on Isaiah and Malachi to answer these questions.
And the geographical mapping in these texts is highly, highly intentional. The source points to the prophecy in the book of Isaiah, chapter 9.
Okay, what does that one say?
It states that the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. But, and this is key, it doesn't say this light appears in Jerusalem, or in the high temple, or among the ruling class.
Which is where you'd expect a divine light to show up.
Exactly. Instead, it specifically locates the arrival of this light in the lands of Zebulun and Naphtali.
Let's really unpack the historical and sociological reality of Zebulun and Naphtali, because to truly grasp the weight of this prophecy, you have to understand what those names represented to an ancient audience.
They were not the prestige districts.
Not at all. These were not the crown jewels of the ancient world.
No, historically, Zebulun and Naphtali were territories in the northern region of Galilee. And the geopolitical landscape of the ancient Near East, they were essentially buffer states.
They took the brunt of every attack.
Exactly. When invading empires like Assyria swept down from the north, these tribal lands were the first to be crushed, the first to be assimilated, and the first to be dragged into exile.
So they were constantly being conquered and mixed with other nations.
Right. Over centuries, they became a mixing pot of different cultures and ethnicities, which led the religious elites in the southern capital of Jerusalem to view them with immense disdain.
They looked down on them.
Big time. They were referred to as the Galilee of the Gentiles.
They were the outskirts, the marginalized, despised, uncultured backwaters. Literally the places that polite society had deemed to be irrevocably shrouded in darkness.
Which is the entire theological point the prophecy is making.
I see.
The unsealed light did not initiate in the halls of power. It did not appear to the scholars who believed their rote memorization gave them a monopoly on divine truth.
It went to the people everyone else had written off.
It appeared to the outcasts in a war-torn, culturally mixed borderland. This reinforces that earlier assertion we talked about, that human standards of importance, hierarchy, and goodness are completely inverted when confronted with the divine standard.
The light just bypasses the self-righteous entirely.
Completely bypasses them.
It's basically a geographical metaphor for humility.
That's a brilliant way to phrase it.
So that establishes the where.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the when? How does the source explain the chronology of this light arriving?
The source views the entire structure of the Old Testament as a series of intricate questions or set-up conditions, with the life of Jesus functioning as the exact corresponding answer.
Okay.
And to explain the mechanics of this timeline, the expert in the lecture uses John the Baptist as a crucial transitional figure.
Yeah, the text specifically defines John the Baptist's role, using the metaphor of light, but it places a very hard limitation on what kind of light he was.
Right. The source clarifies that John the Baptist was a lamp witnessing in the night.
A lamp, not the sun.
Exactly. Think about the ancient world before the advent of electricity. An oil lamp was a vital, life-saving tool, but its range was incredibly limited.
It only lights up a small space.
It could illuminate a single room or guide your immediate footsteps, but it could not dispel the night itself. The darkness was still the dominant reality all around you.
Right, the lamp doesn't make it daytime.
John was not the sun. He was a temporary, localized illumination whose sole purpose was to signal that the morning was rapidly approaching.
He is the flashlight you use to navigate the pitch-black room just before someone throws open the blast doors to let the actual sun in.
Exactly. And that transition from the lamp to the sun brings the source to a vivid, almost startling prophecy from the book of Malachi, chapter 4.
Oh, this part is fascinating.
The prophecy speaks of the Son of Righteousness finally rising, and it says it will rise with healing in its wings.
And here is where the source introduces a metaphor that completely subverted my expectations when I first read it.
The calf metaphor.
Yes. The Malachi prophecy says that those who revere this Son of Righteousness, those who receive the healing light, will go out and leap like calves released from the stall.
Right.
Now, I have to be honest with you. When I read that, my modern 21st century brain immediately visualized like a Disney movie.
Oh, for sure. Bambi vibes.
Totally. A cute little calf led out of a dark, cramped barn, frolicking in a beautiful sunlit meadow, experiencing pure joy and freedom. It sounds like a metaphor for eternal relaxation, honestly.
It undeniably carries that initial emotional weight of liberation and profound relief. I mean, the healing of the light frees you from the confinement of darkness.
It feels good.
But the source material refuses to let the metaphor stop at mere emotional comfort. It forces us to examine the agricultural reality of the ancient world. It asks a deeply practical question. What actually happens to a calf?
Well, calf doesn't stay a calf forever.
Exactly. A calf grows up. And in an agrarian society, a calf that grows up healthy and strong doesn't just get to live a life of leisure in the meadow.
It becomes an ox.
It becomes a massive, powerful beast of burden.
Wow.
The source explains that believers are healed by the light. They are released from the stall of ignorance, not so they can bask in the sunshine and feel morally superior.
Oh, man.
They are healed, strengthened, and nurtured so that they can eventually put on a heavy wooden yoke and become oxen that plow the fields.
That fundamentally alters the entire trajectory of the spiritual journey as we usually think of it.
It's not about achieving enlightenment so you can detach from the world and just sit in a state of zen.
Right.
The source points to the concept of laboring in the heavenly field. The light heals you specifically so that you are equipped to do grueling, exhausting, difficult work.
You have to work the ground.
You are meant to break up the hard, unyielding soil of the world so that more seeds can be planted.
It completely eradicates the concept of passive spirituality. Like gaining knowledge, unsealing the text, experiencing the healing of the light that is not the finish line.
No, it is merely the starting gun. The healing is the absolute prerequisite for the labor.
Which flows seamlessly into the next major argument of the source material. The existential urgency of walking in the light and the critical importance of actually knowing your destination.
The urgency is palpable in this text.
Yeah, the source pulls a direct command from Jesus found in John chapter 12. The directive is stark: walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you.
The tension in that phrasing is so intense. Before darkness overtakes you.
It implies a chase.
It frames the light not as a permanent static fixture that you can casually visit whenever you feel like it, but as a fleeting window of opportunity. The darkness is active. It is a pursuing force.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. The source material leverages this command to ask a profoundly uncomfortable question. It asks you, the listener, do you actually know where you are going?
It's a question designed to just cut right through the noise of human ambition.
Think about the modern rat race for a second. Think about how much energy we expend every single day.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
Right. We are paying off 30-year mortgages. We are navigating cutthroat corporate ladders. We are obsessively checking our investment portfolios. We are shuttling kids to 10 different extracurricular activities.
We're busy. We are always moving.
We have detailed 5-year plans for our careers. We are moving from point A to point B with incredible velocity and immense effort.
But to what end?
Exactly. If someone hit pause on all of that, stripped away all the societal markers of success, and asked, fundamentally on a spiritual, existential level, where is your final destination?
Most people would freeze.
I think a vast majority of people would realize they're just walking in the dark.
Yeah.
We have highly detailed maps for our careers, but absolutely no map for our ultimate purpose.
The source notes the extreme urgency in the biblical text meant to correct this aimless wandering. In the narrative, Jesus states, I am in the world for a little while.
A little while, a time limit.
The source interprets this as a severe warning against the human tendency towards spiritual procrastination.
The idea that we can just put off the big existential questions until we have a bit more free time.
It's a very common trap. We tell ourselves, I need to focus on building my career in my 20s and 30s. I need to secure my family's financial future right now.
I'll worry about my soul later.
Right. When I hit 50, when things finally calm down, then I'll start asking the big questions. Then I'll figure out what the ultimate truth is.
But the source aggressively counters this timeline.
It argues that waiting is not a neutral act. Waiting is actively allowing the darkness to overtake you.
Because the darkness is moving.
Exactly. According to the text, true direction and true purpose only materialize when you begin walking sequentially in the light.
The concept of walking sequentially is so crucial here. It implies that you do not get the entire map of the universe handed to you up front.
No, you only discover the destination by committing to the path. You take a single step into the unsealed light, and the illumination from that single step reveals where you need to place your foot next.
It's step by step.
If you refuse to take the first step because you demand to see the finish line before you begin, you remain paralyzed in the darkroom.
You have to move.
The physical disruptive action of walking is a mandatory requirement for the ongoing revelation of the destination.
And to illustrate the sheer disruption of this process, the source weaves in a famous narrative from John chapter 9, the story of the man born blind.
It is an absolute masterclass in theological metaphor.
Yeah, it really is.
The source emphasizes that physical maladies in these ancient texts, especially blindness or deafness, are almost universally employed as physical manifestations of spiritual realities.
The narrative begins with the disciples asking a question that reveals their own flawed, human-defined morality that we talked about earlier.
What do they ask?
They see the blind man and ask, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? They operate on the assumption that suffering is a direct punishment for a specific moral failure.
Karma, basically.
Right.
But the text shatters that paradigm. The answer given is that he was born blind so that the works of God might be displayed in him.
It flips the script entirely.
His physical blindness is a canvas. When the light is granted to him, when his eyes are finally opened, it is a physical, undeniable enactment of what the unsealed word does to a human soul.
It's the metaphor brought to life.
It takes someone who has been sitting in darkness, entirely dependent on others, totally unaware of the actual topography of reality, and suddenly grants them the ability to perceive absolute truth.
And this connects perfectly to the metaphor of the calf becoming the ox we discussed. His healing does not lead to a peaceful life.
Oh, not at all.
The moment he can see, he doesn't just get to go enjoy a beautiful sunset and live happily ever after.
No, his healing immediately thrusts him into a vicious conflict.
The religious authorities haul him in for an interrogation. They demand to know how he was healed, who healed him, and why it happened on a Sabbath.
He becomes a target.
His newfound light puts him in direct, unavoidable opposition to the established power structures. Which brings us to the final major dynamic explored in the source material.
This is where the tension really peaks.
If there is unsealed light, and there are individuals courageously trying to walk in it, there will inevitably be systemic forces attempting to extinguish it.
We are talking about the gatekeepers of darkness versus the initiators of light.
The villains of the story, essentially.
The source is entirely unsparing in its identification of the antagonists in this framework. It points directly to the religious elites of the first century.
The Pharisees and the experts in the law, as they are described in Matthew 23.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the text accuses them of what is arguably the most horrific spiritual crime imaginable. It says they shut the door to the kingdom of heaven in people's faces.
Let's tie this back to our very first analogy of the locked manual and the treasure chest in the dark room.
Okay, let's do it.
The Pharisees are positioned as the people who publicly claim to possess the encryption key. They stand right in front of the door, acting as the ultimate authorities on what is inside, but they refuse to actually unlock it for anyone.
They hold the power, but deny the access.
And worse, they actively prevent anyone else from even trying to pick the lock.
The mechanics of how they achieve this are just fascinating because you have to ask, how do you practically shut the door to heaven? You can't physically block every single person.
Right, there are too many people. So how do they do it?
The source claims they achieved this primarily through the weaponization of language and the manipulation of societal influence.
Information control.
Exactly. When the light, the unsealed, disruptive truth spoken by Jesus began to spread, they didn't just disagree with it intellectually in a debate.
They attacked it.
They labeled it a cult. They labeled it heresy. They utilized their immense cultural authority to brand the truth as socially dangerous.
And we know how effectively that works sociologically. I mean, if the most respected, educated leaders in your community point at a movement and say, hey, if you associate with them, you will be excommunicated.
You will lose your business.
You will be cut off from your family. The vast majority of people will just freeze.
They back away.
The gatekeepers terrify the populace away from the light. They essentially enforce the cowardice we discussed earlier.
And the text describes these gatekeepers using one of the most haunting phrases in all of ancient literature: whitewashed tombs.
I have always found that imagery chilling, but I don't think modern readers fully grasp the cultural weight of it. What did that actually mean to them?
In ancient Judea, coming into contact with a corpse or a grave made a person ritually impure for 7 days.
Which was a big deal.
Huge deal. You couldn't participate in society or enter the temple. So before major festivals, they would actually paint the tombs bright white so that travelers wouldn't accidentally step on them in the dark.
So the whitewash wasn't for decoration. It was literally a warning sign for contamination.
Exactly. But visually, it made the tombs look bright, clean, and pristine on the outside.
It looks nice.
It perfectly encapsulates the source's critique of human-defined goodness. The Pharisees looked beautiful on the outside.
They did all the right things.
They adhered to all the societal virtues. They were polite. They prayed loudly. They gave to charity. They maintained the traditions.
The model citizens.
But internally, they were full of dead bones. The exterior societal goodness was a mask for profound internal spiritual rot and darkness.
They looked like the ultimate authorities on light.
But they were entirely devoid of the unsealed essence.
So, opposed to these gatekeepers, the source presents the initiators of light.
The heroes of the framework.
It specifically focuses on the Apostle Paul and his commission found in the book of Acts, chapter 26. And this is where the source material introduces a thought experiment that absolutely blew my mind regarding the sheer difficulty of spreading truth.
It's a staggering thought experiment.
The commission Paul receives is to go to the Gentiles and, quote, open their eyes.
It is a profound analogy for the seemingly impossible task of introducing an absolute truth into a relative world.
I want you to really visualize the mechanics of this scenario for a second.
Yeah.
Imagine that you have miraculously been given perfect 20/20 vision.
Okay, I can see perfectly.
But you live in a world or you walk into a remote village where every single inhabitant has been blind since birth.
Everyone.
Generation after generation, no one has ever possessed sight. But here's the critical factor. They don't know they are blind.
Because they've never known anything else.
Exactly. They have built an entire functioning civilization based on their sightless reality. They have their own systems of navigation, their own definitions of what is beautiful based on texture or sound, their own complete societal structures.
It works for them.
They are utterly, unequivocally convinced that they have a perfect, comprehensive understanding of the world.
Their darkness is not a source of distress for them. It is their baseline reality. They are comfortable in it because it's all they have ever known.
Now, you walk into this village, Your eyes are wide open, you can see the blazing sun in the sky, you can see the vibrant colors of the landscape, and critically, you can see that the village is built on the edge of a crumbling cliff.
A literal disaster waiting to happen.
You try to explain this to them. You say, listen, there's this phenomenon called light. It reveals that our reality is completely different than what you feel. What is the reaction of the village going to be?
They're certainly not going to organize a parade in your honor.
They're going to think you have lost your mind.
Oh, absolutely.
They will treat you as a madman, a dangerous disruptor, or a cult leader trying to upend their perfectly ordered, logical society. They will demand you prove the existence of color using only their metric of touch, which is impossible.
This is the exact dynamic the source material uses to explain the immense friction of holding the unsealed truth in a world that operates entirely on sealed ignorance.
It's completely incompatible.
When Paul is sent to open their eyes, he is not being dispatched on a comfortable diplomatic mission where he will be greeted with open arms.
He's not getting an award.
He is being sent into the village of the blind, fully knowing that the very people he's trying to save will hate him for telling them they cannot see.
It requires an almost incomprehensible level of courage, which circles all the way back to why the source condemns cowardice so heavily.
Right, the cowardice we talked about earlier.
A coward is someone who walks into the village of the blind, realizes that everyone else is blind, and decides that the social friction of explaining the light is just too exhausting.
It's too hard to fight the crowd.
So, to fit in, to maintain their reputation among the blind, they deliberately squeeze their own eyes shut and pretend they can't see the cliff either.
It is a devastating surrender. And this brings us to the ultimate conclusion the source draws regarding the mandate for action.
What's the final mandate?
The text insists that believers are called to actively turn people from darkness to light. It doesn't sugarcoat the reality of what this means. It explicitly frames this as turning people from the power of Satan to God.
It is an aggressive rescue mission.
Yes. And the source provides a dire warning about the consequences of abandoning that mission.
What happens if you stop?
If you give up because the work of an ox is too hard, because you are exhausted by being called crazy by the inhabitants of the blind village, you don't just get to retreat to a quiet corner and keep the light for yourself.
You can't just retire early from the spiritual labor.
The source argues that stagnation is impossible. If you stop actively pushing against the darkness, you inevitably slide back into it yourself.
You lose the light.
The natural momentum of the world, the default gravitational pull of human society, is always toward darkness.
It's like trying to swim upstream in a raging river. The moment you stop kicking, the moment you decide you just want to float and rest for a minute, the current takes you. You are swept away.
You are not meant to merely acknowledge the existence of the light in the private sanctuary of your own mind. You are meant to become an active guide for others.
You have to lead them.
You have to take them by the hand, absorb their resistance, and lead them out of the blind village, even as they fight you every single step of the way.
Man, that is a heavy, monumental calling. Let's take a breath and look back at the incredible architecture of the argument this source material has built today.
It's been quite a journey.
We started by entirely redefining the ground rules of engagement with ancient texts. We learned that the physical words are just a locked box. They must be unsealed, the essence must be extracted for them to become light.
We moved away from just memorizing words.
We challenged the deeply held, comfortable assumption that worldly morality and traditional virtues equate to true good deeds, understanding instead that without being anchored in the absolute truth of the divine word, our human definitions of goodness often just create new forms of hypocrisy and darkness.
We dissected the psychology of rejection, recognizing that many choose the dark, not out of innocent ignorance, but out of a calculated cowardice, fearing the loss of their societal standing.
The fear of what the blind village will think.
Exactly. We tracked the timeline of prophecy, noting how the divine light bypassed the self-righteous centers of power to emerge in marginalized borders, heralded by lamps in the night, culminating in a sun of righteousness that heals believers specifically so they can mature into oxen, ready to plow the hard soil of the heavenly fields.
We confronted the existential dread of our own modern aimlessness, hearing the urgent command to walk in the light before the darkness of wasted time overtakes us.
We have to move sequentially.
We saw how healing brings immediate conflict with established powers. And finally, we faced the daunting reality of the gatekeepers, the whitewashed tombs who weaponized language to keep the door locked, and embraced the incredibly difficult calling of being an initiator of light, a guide willing to endure the hostility of the village of the blind.
It is a theological framework that refuses to let the reader remain passive. It demands total transformation, moving a person from an observer of texts to a disruptive, courageous agent of action.
And that leaves us with one final, lingering thought for you to carry with you today. Our source material draws a razor-sharp, uncompromising line between merely acknowledging that a light exists and actually doing the grueling work to become a guide for others.
It's a huge distinction.
We started this exploration by picturing an encrypted manual to the universe, a heavy book full of ultimate secrets that remains a useless paperweight on your lap until you find the key to unlock it.
If true darkness is holding that manual but never possessing the courage or the diligence to unseal it, we are forced to turn that critique inward.
In what areas of your own life are you holding on to a closed book? Where are you perfectly content with the mere illusion of knowledge, enjoying the aesthetic comfort of the locked box, rather than doing the hard, disruptive, and often painful work of actually opening it?
It's a question we all have to answer.
What absolute truths are you avoiding right now because unsealing them would force you to change the comfortable, culturally approved path you are currently walking?
It is undeniably easier to sit in the dark and pretend you possess perfect vision than to turn on the light and realize you have a massive, overgrown field to plow.
It really is. The light is a beautiful thing, but it is relentless in what it reveals. Thank you for joining us on this incredibly dense, challenging deep dive into the source material today. Keep questioning the binaries, keep doing the hard work to unseal the texts in your own life, and whatever you do, keep seeking the light. We'll catch you next time.